This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at the Samsung Galaxy Exhibit on T-Mobile. Yeah, it might be a little confusing because there was a Galaxy Exhibit before. That one was the Galaxy Exhibit 4G. They axed the 4G from the name here. They didn't call it the Exhibit 2, but that's okay. What is it? It's an entry-level phone that's wildly affordable, $235 retail. That's the full price of the phone. So, if you're looking for something on a budget or just your first smartphone, you don't want to break the bank, this might be it. We're going to look at it now. So here it is, the Samsung Galaxy Exhibit. Very hand-friendly if you have small hands. A 3.8-inch display. Do you remember those about 3 years ago? That was kind of state-of-the-art, right? Now it seems incredibly small. But the nice part is, boy, it should fit in just about anybody's hand. And it has a nice soft-touch curved back here that's very comfortable. Granted, it's not a looker, it's not gorgeous. Not horrible either, but nice to hold on to. And the back is removable, giving you access to the battery. That's always refreshing. Grab point right there, you yank it off, there's your battery, there's your full-size SIM card slot. Remember full-size SIM cards? This is just like a way-back machine, isn't it, this phone? And we have a micro SD card slot. You don't have to take the back off. It's actually underneath this little door right over here that says micro SD card slot. So you can use cards with this to expand storage. You can use cards up to 32 or even 64 gigs. We tested it and it worked just fine. And that's a good thing because you really will want to augment storage. This only has 1.2 gigs of available storage out of 4 gigs total internal storage. So that's not much. If you're into 3D games, obviously some of those are larger than that just for one game. But this phone really doesn't have the horsepower for playing those kinds of games anyway. On the side here, in addition to our micro SD card slot, we have the volume controls, typical of Samsung, and on the opposite side we have the power button right there. Up top, 3.5 millimeter standard headphone mic jack. Here's our micro USB port right here for charging the phone and for transferring stuff from your PC if you want to. On the back, 5 megapixel camera with an LED flash. That blue accent here and on the front home button, that is not some shipping tape that they put on. Often they do use blue highlights so you see it and pull it off. That really is the design of the phone right there. That's our rear firing speaker. And on the front, standard unlock screen right here, we have a center clicky oval home button, and we have capacitive soft buttons right there that light up when you touch them. And as with most Samsung phones, you can control the duration up to 6 seconds of backlighting. This is just a standard TFT screen here. Not super duper bright, not super duper colorful, but not too bad. Viewing angles, not too bad as phones go. You can see it loses its brightness and its colorfulness as you move it off angle, but it's certainly quite usable at most angles that at least I tend to hold the phone at when I'm using it. 800 by 480 pixels, again, something out of about 3 years ago, but hey, this is a very inexpensive phone, and for $235, I have to say, you get a brand you can trust, Samsung. You get a relatively recent version of Android OS 4.1.2, that's Jelly Bean. Samsung's TouchWiz software on here. Not all the bells and whistles you're going to see on something like the Samsung Galaxy S4. Pretty decent, that 5 megapixel rear camera, and we have a front video chat camera as well. And all of the usual things that you would expect on a modern smartphone. We have dual band Wi-Fi, we have Bluetooth on here, and a GPS. No NFC though. And now for a size comparison, here's our little Samsung Galaxy Exhibit next to the Galaxy S4, the 5-inch screen. So obviously much smaller. You get the idea. It fits in your pocket easy on the hands, but not that wonderful, capacious, giant screen to look at when you're viewing web pages, watching videos, or what have you. As we take a look at the software itself, you can see we got 5 home screens. T-Mobile is populated with some widgets. You can get rid of those if you don't want them. We've got features like T-Mobile TV here. This is not an LTE phone. That's kind of a shame, but this has HSPA Plus, which T-Mobile used to call 4G, but now they're calling their LTE 4G instead, so that's why this guy lost the 4G from its name. HSPA Plus speeds, it depends on your area. If you're a T-Mobile customer, you know what they're like. Certainly not going to rival LTE, but you can see some of the results that we've gotten here. Not among the best that we've seen actually on T-Mobile HSPA Plus. But still, web pages load quickly enough. Decent for standard quality streaming video. We have both the standard WebKit web browser here and Chrome is on board, so you have your choice. And you can see that's our Sun Spider JavaScript test here. We'll visit our own website, and you can see the keyboard here. They include swipe, which is nice. Because the screen is, well, so small by today's standards, we're not used to 3.8-inch screens so much anymore. It might take a little getting used to typing on something that is that small. And right now we just did that over Wi-Fi. And we'll show you using Chrome in a minute how it does on HSPA, but you can see pinch zooming speeds are reasonably good. At 800 by 480, even though the screen's relatively small, your text is not going to be razor sharp like it is on one of the flagship phones, but then again, this is less than half the price of a flagship phone. You see this little symbol up here that tells us that we are using Wi-Fi calling, so this phone has that feature for those of you who like Wi-Fi calling. And typical of Samsung TouchWiz, right here we have all our quick access right here to wireless radios and settings. We've got a little informational bullet here telling us how much data we've used, and I'm going to turn Wi-Fi off so we can see what it's like on HSPA Plus. And now we'll use the Chrome web browser. And you can see it's not going to load as quickly as did Wi-Fi. And there you have it. Is a connection fast enough for streaming video? Let's find out. We'll take a look at our video review of the Samsung Galaxy Tab 3 10.1 tablet. We have a pretty good signal here, so I have some high hopes. And this will be the HTML5 version of the YouTube video review that we have up. Flash is not pre-installed. You could try to preload it if you want it. There we go. Now, honestly, I think this has more to do with the processor speed than it does with the data speed of the phone. We'll talk about the processor in a bit. And there you go. You can see our volume was about 55%, 60% right now.
Samsung's latest Android tablet. This is the Samsung Galaxy Tab 3 10.1. Yeah, they're sticking with that naming convention. It's a little confusing by the time you add. Yeah, they're sticking with that naming convention. It's a little
and here we go, full screen. Took some patience to get here, but we got here. Now, as I said, part of it is the network speed, part of it's probably the processor speed. This has a 1 gigahertz dual-core CPU. Again, 3 years down back in memory lane, you remember what those were like. And it's a kind of nameless CPU. It's the STE U8420 with Mali 400 graphics. Mali 400 graphics back in the day of the Galaxy S2 were not so bad, but today it seems a little bit aged. On Quadrant, this guy scored 2783. On Antutu, 6552. So that's about 1/2 to 1/3 of what we see on today's flagship phones. Again, you're also spending 1/2 to 1/3 of what today's flagship phones do cost. So if speed isn't the name of the game for you, then it's fine. Now, navigating around the phone, it's usually okay. I do notice occasional lag, though, and sometimes it can be a little bit annoying when you're interacting with the phone because you think it didn't catch your first tap and you tap something again, and, well, you really didn't need to, as it turns out. But overall, it's reasonably usable. It's tolerable. If you're on a budget, hey, it's solid. It works. It has all the features of Android. All the standard Android apps are on here. You have your Gmail, your calendar, your contacts, all that kind of thing. A couple of Samsung TouchWiz features. Mostly those are just the UI enhancements here, not too much in terms of their own application enhancements. You do have their Media Hub, so you can buy content from there. Slacker is preloaded on here, so is Telenav Scout. A couple of T-Mobile utilities for managing your account, obviously for T-Mobile TV as well. And we have Samsung's S-Voice on board for those of you who actually like S-Voice. I find that it kind of works mezza, and I prefer Google Voice Control. Now let's see how it plays a game. We're going to go with Dead Trigger because that's a 3D game that's kind of cool looking, but it's not super duper demanding. It runs on all kinds of hardware, so we're going to give it a try and see how it goes. So here we are in Dead Trigger, and granted this is a fairly static scene, so it's pretty playable here, but it definitely is usable. Occasionally I see some frame rate drops, but overall it responds and it plays. And certainly there are a lot of casual games available on the Google Play Store that are going to run just fine, and older 3D games too. So that's Dead Trigger on the Samsung Galaxy Exhibit on T-Mobile. The Galaxy Exhibit is a good voice phone, and you can see we have a fairly standard looking dialer over here, large and easy to use. Access to your call logs, your favorites, and all contacts right here. Definitely incoming and outgoing voice are nice and clear and fairly full too. So as a voice phone, this definitely fulfills its job. It's pleasant to use. Battery life on this, we have the 1500 milliamp battery back here, and you know this is a phone that has a small screen. It's not very high resolution. It's only a 1 gigahertz CPU, so you know what? That means good battery life. You can probably go, about almost 8 hours of call time according to our tests. So definitely an Energizer Bunny here too, which is nice compared to some of today's flagships, which have giant displays, fast CPUs, and suck the power down like crazy. So that's the Samsung Galaxy Exhibit. It's available now on T-Mobile. You can get it for $19.99 down and make payments on it, or just spend $235 total to get the phone. I wouldn't recommend it for somebody who's an advanced smartphone user unless maybe you dropped your phone in the water and you're desperate for something new. And obviously for $235, this is wildly affordable and it is functional. Also fine for you newbies just getting into a smartphone, don't want to spend a lot of money. But otherwise, I think you probably want to look at something higher end. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Don't forget to hit that like button.